Hey guys, Jonathan here, and today I'll be reviewing all four of the LEGO Iron Man Hall of Armor sets. This will include the 2019 Avengers Endgame, the 2020 Iron Man Armory, the 2022 Iron Man 2 Hall of Armor, and the 2025 Iron Man 3 Hall of Armor, which LEGO sent me early to review. Now, I'm really excited to compare all of these because it's really interesting to see how these evolved over the years. For example, the first one ever in 2019 came out of necessity because LEGO couldn't make spoiler sets for Endgame, so they went back and made the Iron Man Hall of Armor to give us some old armors and things like that. So that's pretty cool. Then the following year in 2020, they used the same basic design so that you could combine the two sets, but it was based off of the Avengers video game and comic books, so we got some alternate designs there. Then 2 years later, in 2022, we went back and revisited Iron Man 2 and got characters like War Machine, but also some other armors that weren't even in Iron Man 2. But we got lots of cool accessories. However, the price was insane. So that turned a lot of people away from getting this, and we'll talk about that. And now we have the new 2025 one up top there, which is a decent set on its own, but when you take into consideration that it's $55, there's no way that it's worth the money. So in today's video, we'll be looking at how these sets evolved, doing comparisons, and of course, at the end, I will rank them all from best to worst, or probably from worst to best. I don't know. We'll get there when we get there, but be sure to hit like and subscribe down below before we get into the video, and let's start comparing every LEGO Iron Man Hall of Armor. Alright guys, so we're gonna start the journey back in 2019 with the first ever Hall of Armor, and this is the one from Avengers Endgame. Well, of course, there wasn't really a Hall of Armor in Avengers Endgame, which is why we need to start with adding context. You see, a lot of those Endgame sets were not accurate to anything we saw in the movie because LEGO couldn't do any spoilers because Marvel was keeping such a tight lid on what actually was going to happen in Endgame. For that reason, they actually went back and did a throwback set like this, kind of like the Infinity Saga before the Infinity Saga in terms of LEGO doing sets from older movies. So that gave us the Hall of Armor that came out in April of 2019 and was on store shelves until August of 2021. This retailed for $59.99, which adjusted for inflation today would be $74.54, with 524 pieces, a price-to-piece ratio of 11 cents, and 6 minifigs, 3 of which remained exclusive. So it definitely ended up being a really good set in terms of value and long-term value, although much to my surprise, this one hasn't really gone up a ton in value on the aftermarket. You can still find it relatively cheap. So, that being said, let's take a closer look at everything that is here, shall we? We'll start with the minifigs, and we'll start off with Mark 1. Now, you guys have to realize that throwing back to these days of Avengers Endgame, we all wanted a Hall of Armor set like this, and we all wanted Iron Man Mark 1. In fact, LEGO hasn't even given us an Iron Man Mark 1 since this, so this may be the one and only that they ever give us. I mean, who knows in the future, of course, but right now it seems like this is it. I love the sandy detail that was on there, and of course, all that detail we saw on the back makes this such a great figure, and I think it's aged exceptionally well. Then, of course, we have the suitcase armor, which threw back to Iron Man 2, so we got something from Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2, with the great leg print, hip print, and toe print on this. Then, of course, you'll notice that the heads underneath are clear because Tony can only wear one armor at a time. But this is such a great figure because the face mask here actually had lines on it, extra detail that we don't often see on Iron Man minifigs, especially back in the day. So that was really cool. And then from Iron Man 3, we got the Bones armor, which was really cool. Once again, with hip printing and toe printing, and a great print all around. Again, lines on the mask, making it really stand out and making it such an awesome figure. Now for the non-exclusive figures, we got Iron Man's armor from Endgame. Definitely a nice suit here, Mark 50. Really, really cool. Underneath, of course, we got Tony's face with the HUD, the one we've literally been getting for years, but if it works, it works. And you'll notice when we look at the set, they actually gave us a hairpiece too, so you could take the mask off of Tony. And then we also got 2 identical Outriders. Yes, even back then, LEGO just loved to throw Outriders in sets. So we got 2 here for some story play value. And then, while technically not a minifig, we did get the Igor armor for the first time ever. We're actually going to take a closer look at this a little bit later in the video when we get to the Iron Man 3 version so that we can compare them side by side, because there are several differences but a lot of similarities between the two, and we can kind of determine which is the better. But as you can see, you can lift this top part up and this and put an Iron Man minifig inside the pilot, or of course, just like Iron Man 3, it can operate on its own, so it's a really, really cool build, and I like that a lot. Now we'll move the camera in to take a closer look at the set itself. So once again, this was our first ever Hall of Armor, and it really kind of pioneered the concept of what the Hall of Armor could even be in the long run. As you can see, there were little spaces where you could put Iron Man armors all the way through, but certain pods had different things attached to them. In fact, let's go ahead and remove this centerpiece so that we can look at those pods, then we'll come back and look at that. But you can see here we've got a holster for a blaster and a little weapon. We've got a blank one here. This could hold a wrench as well as the fire extinguisher, which was actually in Dummy's hand. And I like that they put the dunce cap on Dummy as well, throwing back to Iron Man 3. So that was a nice little side build that was included. Then, of course, we've got this piece here, which was able to hold the backpack from Mark 1 if you so desired. Then this center console actually had the walkway built out into it. Then we got a blank one. We got a little tool chest over here with Iron Man's wig hanging out there. And then we got a blender and a coffee cup, so that worked out really well. Now, up top, you can see that there were some flames included so that you could have some attack scenes going on. We also got a ladder here, and the reason for the ladder is because you could take some of these pods if you wanted and move them around to make it modular. So you could stack it taller and all of that. I actually probably picked some bad ones to go up top because, like, how would he access that? But you get what I mean. And then when we flipped the whole thing around, there were some stickers on the reverse side that actually showed some of the armors. So as you can see, we'll start over here. We've got the suitcase armor schematics, and it threw back to the original suitcase armor that came in the Iron Man 3 Malibu Mansion from 2013, which was cool. Here we've got the Striker armor, which wouldn't debut in LEGO form for another several years until 2022, which we'll look at. And then we've also got the House Party Protocol on standby with some cool references to other Iron Man armors like Red Snapper, Silver Centurion, and just some other various armors all around. The only other thing really to talk about from this section is the brick-built antenna that was up top. Nothing too crazy, but certainly worth mentioning. Then, as you saw, you could pull out this center console. In fact, you could even pull out the computer console. So if you just wanted to display this part on your desk, you could. Now, of course, this isn't based off of any one specific Iron Man movie. I would say it's probably closest to something from like Iron Man 3, but considering we got armors from all three films, and even Avengers Endgame, it's really hard to say what this was based off of, whereas most of the other ones are pretty specific. But I do like that you could spin this, and of course the arms could move around to help Tony put on his armor. Then we can put the desk in place there. We have a swivel chair, and one of my gripes about this set was that the stickers are hard to read. They're actually easier to read on camera than in person, but you can see we've got Jarvis and some schematics on this one, just some random computer jargon on that one. Here, it looks like we've got a blocked call coming through from Agent Coulson because he's got the earpiece on there. Once again, you can only really see it in certain lighting and all that. But then, of course, we've got System Error Intruder Alert showing that the Outriders have broken in. So, overall, I think that this set had a lot of charm to it. And again, for $60 at the retail price, getting all of those minifigs, the Igor build, I mean, there was just a lot of value packed into this. And I really think it's aged exceptionally well, to the point that if this set came out today exactly the way it is, I think we would all be really excited about it. Really, if this set came out today, the only thing that would change is the Iron Man helmet style, which is honestly a testament to how well this was designed back in the day, and to this day, it remains one of my favorites. Not my favorite LEGO Marvel set ever by any stretch of the imagination, but once again, if you'd been collecting LEGO Marvel the entire time like me, you know that there was always like a hope and a dream that we would get something like this, that being an Iron Man Hall of Armor. So when we finally did get it, and it delivered as awesome as this one did, I definitely have fond memories of getting this on release day, building it, and having it on display. Even all these years later, I still display this set. Okay, that brings us to the 2020 Avengers video game, air quotations, version of this set. This came out alongside that 2020 wave of Avengers sets that were largely inspired by the video game, as you can tell by the Iron Man armor used here, but it took some creative liberties, right? Like having this hot rod that very clearly is supposed to look like one of the ones from the first Iron Man movie, and leaning really heavy into the whole cheeseburger thing from Avengers Endgame, which of course had just come out the year prior. So anyways, this was on store shelves from August 2020 through March of 2022. It retailed for $30, which adjusted for inflation would be almost $37 today. It had 258 pieces with a price to piece ratio of 12 cents, so not too bad, and 5 minifigs, 3 of which were exclusive, but one of them is technically this Tony Stark, where the head came on every Tony Stark ever, and the torso is from Owen Grady from Jurassic World. So the only exclusive thing about it is that it came in this set, but the pieces were available elsewhere. So to me, it's really not a true exclusive figure. In fact, the other exclusive figure is supposed to be this Iron Man, which I guess we'll start by looking at him. The only thing exclusive about him is the wings build on the back, which, once again, very clearly inspired by Infinity War and Endgame. Of course, the sticker on there is really cool in its own right, but yeah, I wouldn't count this as an exclusive figure because this is literally the exact figure that we have gotten in, so many of those 2020 Iron Man sets. But the flying and the, power blasts, those were cool. Then we got 2 identical AIM agents who, over time, have aged pretty well into looking like TVA agents from Loki and from Deadpool and Wolverine. So we got 2 of those for army builders. Move those to the side. We also got that Tony Stark that I mentioned, but technically he's exclusive because, the head and torso, but this torso's come on lots of Owen Grady figures over the years, and that Tony head is literally the same Tony head we've been getting for years on various minifigs, so not really truly exclusive, but the real draw to this set was the Iron Man Mark II armor. Such a cool figure. Of course, it uses that closed helmet style from the more comic book and video game inspired figures, but it does look really, really good for the MCU version of the Mark II armor as well, so I think that this one's aged really well, and I like it a lot. We get this little box here that has a Tony's Toys sticker on it. I'm not exactly sure what this thing is supposed to be. Maybe it's from the Avengers video game and I just don't know or remember. But we've got a cheeseburger here, once again leaning into Tony loving cheeseburgers, as mentioned in Avengers Endgame. And then we get this cool hot rod here, which was a really nice build. Of course, you could see one minifig inside. It's got that block engine with stud shooters coming out of the side. Kind of interesting. Got a Stark 5 license plate on this, so really nice little side build. And then, of course, we have the main build here itself, the actual Hall of Armor build. This reuses the exact same build style from the previous version that we just looked at from Avengers Endgame. So this was basically like an add-on pack that you could just keep buying these a little bit cheaper than the other one to keep stacking up your Hall of Armor. Of course, we also get that same exact build here with the wrench and the fire extinguisher. Up here, we have some computer screens, which once again are very hard to read, but it's a schematic for the hot rod as well as an extra delivery for the cheeseburgers. Or I guess it's extra cheese and delivery, rather, but still. Then we have this little micro-scale Iron Man. Maybe that's one of the exclusive minifigs they consider. The printing did only come in this set technically, so that is pretty cool. Then when we flip it around, you can see we've got more schematics on the back for all kinds of different Iron Man armors. We've got the Prime 20 armor here. We've got the fire armor for Blazer, which would come in the Avengers Tower from the same year, 2020. We got the War Machine armor, which of course that's the War Machine that came in these sets. And we've got the prototype armor there, which looks really good. So all in all, this was really just an extension battle pack, if you will, of the Hall of Armor from before. This would be the first and only time that LEGO would do a Hall of Armor where the stall builds to put the armor in were the same across 2 different sets, because we wouldn't see another Hall of Armor for 2 years after this with the Iron Man 2, which of course we're going to look at next, and that would completely change the design of the Hall of Armor stalls, so let's wrap it up and take a look at that up next. Alright, so up next we have the 2022 Iron Man 2 version. This came out in June of 2022 and was available till January 2024 and retailed for $90. Adjusted for inflation, that'd be almost $98 in today's money, and it only had 496 pieces with a price-to-piece ratio of 18 cents, which, you know, we're usually aiming for about 10, so 18 is not very good, but we did get 8 minifigs, 4 of which were exclusives, so there's a lot to go back and forth with on this set, and the thing that I love about it, and I think has aged particularly well, are all of the little side builds and references that are built in. This really was a love letter to Iron Man 2, and after so long of not getting any reference to Iron Man 2, it was definitely awesome to get an entire set like this. So let's take a closer look and start breaking it down. So we got this cool display stand that goes in the middle here. As you can see, there are studs that you can place your figure. It doesn't spin or have any features on its own, so there's that, but it is a nice display in its own right. Then, of course, we'll get into our minifigures. This is the Iron Man Mark III, which looks really, really great. Of course, we can lift that helmet up, and this was right around the time that the new helmet style debuted, so I'm not a big fan of these new helmets. I mean, when I look at them side by side with the old helmet, I just think the old one had more detail. I like the shaping better. But I will say that these new helmets have definitely aged in that these early ones are a little on the rough side, but the newer ones definitely look better, as we'll see in the next set as we look at it here. But great printing here. The only thing that made this figure exclusive is this helmet and torso combo, because in the Infinity Saga the year previous, we also got the Mark III, but it still had that classic helmet style that we just looked at a moment ago. Now, we got our first and only Whiplash minifig, which is pretty interesting. He had his armor from the final battle of the movie, and of course, we could lift that helmet up, and we actually got his hairpiece, so we could have the inquisitive look on one side, as well as the smirk on the other. Definitely looked really great, and of course, these blue chains for his whips were really, really cool and made for a great figure. Now, we did get a Tony Stark figure. This figure came in lots of different sets over the years, so nothing exclusive or too exciting about this one here, but still definitely a nice inclusion. Another exclusive minifig was the Stryker armor. Of course, using that new helmet style that opens up, got great printing on the back too, with that yellow really jumping out. And then, of course, we got the Stryker brick, like, I guess you would just call them brick-built fists, I'm not exactly sure, but the printing on the toes, the hips, just made for an immaculate figure, and it's always great when we get one of these kind of blink and you miss it Iron Man armors from Iron Man 3 to help build out our collections, which is great. We'll look at these at the same time to save time. This is the same Nick Fury and Pepper Potts that came in tons of sets and are still coming in tons of sets. Pepper had that reversible head, of course, and these are no stranger to LEGO Marvel sets because they've been in lots of them. We've also gotten this War Machine in a couple sets over the years, so not exclusive, but definitely a nice figure. We can lift the helmet up to see that there is no HUD on the other side of the head, so that kind of debuted here, and that was that. Then the final one is the Mark 85 from Avengers Endgame, of course with that blue helmet, because Tony can't wear all his suits at once, as I always say in these videos. And we also got these wings that we could put on it too to recreate that look from the movie as well. So that's really cool. And as you saw, those wings can go on this display piece back there, which is another feature of the set. Speaking of the set, let's take a look at all those details up next. All right, so we got Tony's sports car, which was a really nice inclusion. Got the Stark 11 license plate, which was nice because we got Stark 5 on that other hot rod. And it's just a very solid build. It's a one-seater, got the dashboard sticker there, but the coolest part were the Stark Expo boards that were actually in the back of the set from the Iron Man 2 movie. So what you could do is you could take this table and actually lay out all the Stark Expo pieces. And crazy enough, if you guys head down to Orlando Brick Co., down in Orlando, they actually have the legitimate Stark Expo. Oops, did I put these on the wrong way? I can't remember exactly how they go. Something like that. Actually, I think they go like this. There we go. Had to play a little bit of solve it on camera, but there you go. You could see the actual Stark Expo boards on Orlando Brick Co. down in Orlando, Florida, which is quite cool. Now we've got all of these other things here, like this machinery for Tony's lab. We also got this little vice piece here too that I think connects to that. We got the dummy with the razor on there. This dummy is portable with the wheels and everything. Definitely a cool little side build. I like that. I didn't really like it as much at the time, but I think I've aged into liking it. This set has aged very well for me, if you can't tell. Then we've got Tony's tool chest with a little Iron Man figure, some lights. Then, of course, all of these drawers pull out, which is pretty cool. So I always like that. Definitely nice to add that garage feel to the set. Then we've got these two little schematics here, one of which is... I'm not 100% sure what this one is off the top of my head. Maybe somebody in the comments will know, but we do have the Stark Industries logo down at the bottom right there. Actually, you know what? I think this is when they're tracking from the end of the movie all the like drones and all that. I think that's what this is. But we all know what this one is. This is the blueprint for the Captain America shield, which we see the prototype Cap shield in the back of Tony's lab in Iron Man 2. Then on these computers, once again, they are a little hard to read, but on this side, we've got a side profile of an Iron Man armor with some schematics, and we've got a system check running on one of the armors that's in progress with a little light and a coffee cup on this side and a chair. Then that brings us to the actual Hall of Armor itself, where we have 8 pods. Now, you'll notice there are some exposed studs up there. I have to be real, there were some bricks that go up there that I've lost along the way, so unfortunately, don't have those. But, as you can see, these display the figures really well. Interestingly, there's a lot of headspace up top. I kind of like on the 2019 and 2021 how tight it is, that, you know, the roof is basically right above the figure's head, but this does look really good, and I like that. So we get 8 of those, and of course, they can stack on top. As you can see, oops, that one came apart as I did that. How about if I just take, oh my gosh, these fall apart easier than I remember. But as you can see, you know, you could stack them just like that, as you would expect. Got a little weapons chest there with a fire extinguisher, as many Lego Marvel sets like to have that Easter egg. And then we actually get some interesting ones. Instead of these stickers being built into the actual Hall of Armor, you can actually take the entire piece out and move them around, or have these be freestanding if you so desired. So that's kind of interesting. Now, that being said, this is where it kind of breaks the lore a little bit, because the whole set is supposed to be from Iron Man 2, but we have a nanotech reference here, which would be referencing Infinity War or Endgame. So, of course, we actually have one of the Infinity War armors here, or excuse me, Endgame armors, which couldn't have been in Iron Man 2, obviously. So, you know, they do break the lore here a little bit. It bothers me with the Iron Man 3 set as well, so I'm not just harping on just this set, but I like it better when Lego is consistent. Anyways, we've got a reference to that old Mark 1 armor that we looked at before. We've got the Silver Centurion armor here as well from that polybag. Really cool reference there. And then, of course, that nanotech armor here. So overall, we got a lot of value in this one, but not value for the money. If you could have picked this one up on sale, it was definitely a much better buy than paying full price for it. But still, I like this one a lot. And my hatred for it, I don't want to say hatred, my disdain for the price has waned over the years. I think that it was a really good set in its own right. It's just insane how high the price was, which is a common theme that it's going to share with our next entry. And now that brings us to the instantly infamous Iron Man 3 Hall of Armor from 2025. This set will release in April of 2025 and retail for $55 with only 384 pieces, making it a 14-cent price-to-piece ratio. There are 5 minifigures here, 2 of which are exclusive. But, yeah, okay. Well, technically, you could say Pepper Potts is exclusive because of her new fiery orange hairpiece, but the really 2 new exclusive minifigs are Aldrich Killian and the Iron Patriot. That being said, we'll start off with our minifigs like we've been doing. This is the Iron Man Mark 43 from Age of Ultron. Now, with this being an Iron Man 3 base set, it is a little strange to get an Age of Ultron armor here. But regardless, it is a really good figure. I love this figure. It just doesn't make sense in the context of Iron Man 3. When we look at the figures we did get, it's crazy that we didn't get a new Iron Man Mark 42. If we did, that honestly could have saved the set to a degree. But that being said, we do get an Iron Man Mark 6, which is a welcome addition because we hadn't had one since 2012. And then earlier this year in the Lego Marvel logo set, we got the exact figure you see here. So this figure is an exclusive because it also comes in the Marvel logo. And in the 2023 Avengers Tower, we got a battle damage version of this suit. But it's really great with the hip and toe printing. Love this figure and definitely think it is a nice one to add. Pepper Potts, for some reason, comes with a stud shooter and is the exact same pepper we've been getting since 2021, except again, with that new fiery orange hairpiece. It looks really good, and it didn't really translate on the box art, so I didn't really know until I opened it and built the set that she had a new hairpiece, which is quite cool. Speaking of hairpieces, we have Aldrich Killian. Now, this hair has come in Harry Potter sets before, but it is new for the LEGO Marvel theme, so if you primarily collect LEGO Marvel, this might be the first time you've added it to your collection. That being said, the head is the same one that debuted on young Han Solo from years ago and was even used recently on Hawkeye just a couple years ago. So the only real new thing here is the torso itself, which is a really nice torso, but consider that in 2022 we got the Ivan Vanko Whiplash figure, which came with a new head, a new torso, new legs, and a new helmet. So 4 brand new pieces for the villain, where in this set we only get 1 brand new piece. So that's something to consider. Then of course we get the Iron Patriot, which is definitely the main reason people will be buying this set. The only Iron Patriot previous to this one was, of course, the one that came in the poly bag that was a gift with purchase for pre-ordering the 2013 LEGO Marvel Superheroes video game. So it is really nice to get the figure here all these years later. I'm not a big fan of the cannon on the back. This is probably my least favorite War Machine gun that they've ever done as far as the build goes. I just don't like that it's like aimed off to the side, but overall it is a really nice figure and I do like it quite a bit. We'll talk about the build of the set before Igor, because remember, I do want to do a comparison with the 2019 Igor, so we'll save that for last. As far as the build goes, LEGO actually does count this as a minifig, but I certainly don't. This is Dumb E. As you can see, you could move the centerpiece, which is like a battle droid body part, then you could move the elbow, and you could move the grip, and of course, it has the fire extinguisher, which is famous for coming in so many different LEGO Marvel sets over the last decade plus. Over here, we have a scanning nanotech piece where you could move this to scan the nanotech, but again, nanotech didn't debut on Iron Man until Infinity War, so with this being an Iron Man 3 set, it really doesn't make sense why it's included here, but it is a nice little side build. The big problem I have with that, though, is that the amount of pieces that are used in this are pretty dang close to the amount of pieces that are used in the actual stalls, and so I think all of us would have rather had a 4th Hall of Armor stall rather than this, especially if we're going to army build, and especially for $55. That being said, these stalls are a lot more similar to the 2022 version, but they are technically a new version in their own right. We do have stickers in the back, which you can see are for the Mark 43 over here, which of course is that Age of Ultron armor. You can see it's in Sentry mode, which of course is referencing the fact that, you know, the armor can kind of pilot itself, and it guards Tony when he goes in the castle. Then, of course, we've got the Mark 6 improved, so we can see it's running some schematics there in the center. And over here, we have this armor, which I believe you guys were commenting is the Civil War armor, or maybe even the Homecoming armor. But as you can see, it's got the Friday operating system on it, and you can see it's in the middle of an update. So that's pretty cool. Then the final thing to talk about, we get 2 flames for Aldrich Killian. Oh boy, how exciting. And we get this center pedestal for Iron Man. Now, again, with this being Iron Man 3, by this point of Iron Man's story, he's able to call the armor to himself, so it doesn't really make sense to have this assembly piece here. But as I've gone through and reviewed all these sets, when they're even based off of a movie, they're pulling stuff from all over the MCU, so fair is fair to say that, you know, they kind of jack this up a lot along the way and, you know, get stuff wrong. But we have little steps here, we have studs that he stands on, and a little computer screen with a sticker there, so that's pretty cool. Now, of course, we have Igor, and I want to take a look at Igor on his own, comparing it with the other Igor, so let's do that now. Alright, here we're going to compare the 2 different versions of LEGO Igor. This one, of course, came from the 2019 Avengers Endgame Iron Man Hall of Armor, and this one is from the 2025 Iron Man 3 Hall of Armor. Now, I don't know the exact amount of pieces used in both, but interestingly, they both use a lot of the same design cues in the sense that if you look where the stickers are placed, we have stickers on the thighs for both of them that are basically the same stickers, except the 2025 one shows a little bit more wear. there. And then we have stickers on both wrists on both sides too. Basically the exact same stickers. Yes, there's some variation, but I just think that's fascinating how similar those are. We also have the uniqueness that the eyes were printed on the 2019 one, and the entire face is printed on the 2025 one. And on the 2019, the arc reactor is actually just built with a stud, and on this one, it's actually placed with a sticker. I like the sticker a lot better, but we'll go ahead and look at how Iron Man pilots it. That's pretty similar across the two as well. So basically, you put those studs in Iron Man's back, you move these side pieces in, and then you close it up, and Iron Man is now inside Igor, but man, you can really see, the Iron Man figure in there. And then on the 2025, we do the exact same thing, although there's no bricks on the side, but we just take those studs in the back of his feet, push his arms down, and then close them up. And yes, you can still see Iron Man inside the 2025, but it's nowhere near as much as the 2019. So as far as the 2019 is concerned, we have posability at the shoulders as well as the elbows, and we can pose at the hip and the knees. I really like how blocky the feet are on this. I think that it works really well and makes the figure look very, he just takes up a lot of space, and I like that. You can see that we've got these rounded pieces on the palms for arc reactors, where he can blast, and then, of course, we've got the fingers here on the front. Now, this version can't really hold anything, so the fingers really are just for posing, and then you can see what the back looks like there. I'll show you what the back of the 2025 Igor looks like before we shift our focus to him. I'll actually give you a full 360 of both side by side one last time here so you can see both. There we go. All right, shifting focus to 2025. As you can see, the arms are built on the modern mech joint, so there are no posable elbows, but we do get very posable shoulders, and I like the way that the shoulders are built with these round pieces to make it really, really look like a strong model, which, once again, takes up a lot of space. As we move down, you can see that the fingers are actually, kind of arched in, so it can't technically hold anything, but I do like that it looks more like a fist when you close the hands, and I like that quite a bit. Now, as you can see, the face print is printed on here, and you could move the face up and down to show where the armor is looking, which I think is quite cool. Then, as far as posability goes, we have posability at the hips and the knees, but I'm really not a big fan of how these feet are positioned. They just look kind of stubby to me, so I think that the perfect thing to do would be to take the 2019 feet and put them on here. I'm actually going to do a separate video where I combine these to make the best version of Igor, but the fairest thing to do now is just to compare them here, and I think that both have their merits, but I'd love to hear down in the comments which version you think is better. So we'll go ahead and wrap this video up and call it a day. Alright guys, well, this was a lot of fun to go down memory lane. Now, I have two different rankings. The first ranking is the best value price to piece ratio. So this isn't my personal ranking. This is just taking the facts of what they are, which sets had the best price to piece ratio along the way. Technically, the best price to piece ratio was the Endgame set. You got the most for your money with this one, with it being a price to piece of 11 cents, which is amazing. 524 pieces for $59.99 was a really, really good deal. Unsurprisingly, the 2020, the video game version, is the next best price to piece at only 1 cent difference at 12 cents. This was $30 for 258 pieces, which was a really, really good deal too. Now, the next best deal, price to piece wise, is the 2025 Iron Man 3. That one is a 14-cent price to piece ratio with 384 pieces for $55. And unsurprisingly, the Iron Man 2 from 2022 is the worst price to piece ratio at 18 cents per piece with 496 pieces at $90. So definitely interesting, but now I want to rank them on my personal favorites. This is taking everything into consideration from the build, the minifigs, how well it's aged, so on and so forth. But I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up. In last place, unsurprisingly, is the Iron Man 3 Armory. I just don't think you get enough for your money here. I don't think that it's super accurate to the movie. It's hard to even tell if it's actually from Iron Man 3 outside of the minifigs. So for that reason, this one ranks at the bottom. In third place, I'm giving it to the 2020 version. That's not to say that this is a bad set, because I do like a lot of what we got here, but I also think that it's not as exciting as the other two bigger ones, so it comes in third place. In second place, I'm giving it to the Iron Man 2 version. Yes, the value was horrible, the price to piece ratio was awful, but we did genuinely get some exclusive minifigs here, and this was really, really cool to get all of those little side builds and Easter eggs. So as a Marvel fan, I genuinely love this, but of course, the number one slot is going to that Endgame one from 2019. This was such a cool set back in the day, and having collected Lego Marvel since 2002, the Tobey Maguire sets back in the day, it was awesome to watch the MCU grow and blossom, and everybody wanted a Hall of Armor for years and years and years, and then we finally got it, and the payoff was so worth it. So that's my personal ranking. I'd love to hear how you guys would rank them in the comments down below. And in the meantime, be sure to hit like and subscribe so you don't miss any future videos here on the channel. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys on the next video.